Hello, LINC coordinators here, and we're excited to welcome you to your virtual LINC volunteer training.
This QR code will take you to a link to our volunteer policies for this semester. It's a very important document that we will go over in the following slides.
We're going to begin with some guidelines about attendance. Volunteers who miss 3 or more sessions will be required to have a meeting with one of the coordinators. This is not to be punitive. This is really just to check in with you and about your commitment to LINC to determine the ways that we can help you fulfill your commitment. If you're volunteering multiple days a week, then you'll have to do your check-in with us after 5 missed sessions. After a further 2 missed sessions, volunteers will be required to meet with Fluffy Aguilar, who is the LINC supervisor on the Draper staff, and that will be to discuss your commitment to LINC moving forward.
Volunteers are required to log their volunteering hours on Engage by the end of the day of their sessions. The time log should not include the time spent in transit, only the approximate amount of time the volunteer spent in the classroom working with your students. For example, as a member of a shift that leaves at Draper at 12:15 and returns at 1:45, you would only log the hour of in-person service from 12:30 to 1:30 and not the transit to and from the school. So to log your hours, you're going to go on to engage.claremont.edu and then sign in, click on your profile, and click on service hours. You're then going to click Add Service Hours in the top right corner of the screen, and then that'll take you to a page where you can insert all of the information needed. So you'll click LINC for the organization, and then for the description, you can put LINC volunteering, your date, the total hours, and then at the bottom, you'll add the verification contact as andres.aguilar@pomona.edu, which is our supervisor, Fluffy.
The next very important section of LINC expectations includes communication. You are required to notify your classroom teacher and the other members of your volunteer group at least 1 hour before your shift is scheduled to leave campus. Teacher contact information will be included in the schedule document that you'll receive, where you'll be able to see when your session is. When you send that email to a teacher, volunteers are expected to email both the teacher and copy our email address, learningincollaboration@gmail.com, on that email. You also need to make sure that you use the WhatsApp group chat for your session to let your co-volunteers know that you will not be there. The expectation also in the classroom is that you will be engaging directly with students. If that is not happening in your classroom, or if your classroom teacher is assigning you any other tasks outside of your duties as a LINC volunteer, it is your responsibility to communicate that with a coordinator. We will work with you and/or your classroom teacher to make some adjustments and make this experience as good for you and the students as we can.
Transportation. Drivers are responsible for notifying coordinators immediately when gas is low, the van has maintenance lights on, the van needs cleaning, or whatever it is. This message should be in the WhatsApp group for the shift. Groups are expected to keep the vans clean, removing all personal items and trash when arriving back on campus. Drivers have permission from the coordinators to leave 10 minutes before their session, even if not everyone is there. If you are late to Draper and miss your ride to school, that will count as a missed session. The only exception to this 10-minute rule is when a volunteer comes straight from a class and it has been previously established that they will not be more than 1 or 2 minutes late. For example, if a group has a 12:30 p.m. session, you have permission to leave at 12:20 p.m. However, if you know that one of your volunteers comes straight from a class that ends at 12:15 and they might not get here until 12:21 or 12:22, please wait for them. Volunteers must leave the schools at the scheduled time. Other volunteers will likely need to be back on campus for class or other commitments, and the next group to leave campus will need the van, so be prompt in both arriving for and leaving from your sessions.
Here are some more specific logistics for volunteering. You'll be responsible for promptly completing onboarding tasks as communicated by the coordinators. These include getting a background check, TB test, going to a sexual assault prevention training, a volunteer training, which you're doing right now by watching this video, optionally, but please fill out authorized driver forms, and other tasks required by the Draper Center, the Pomona Unified School District, and/or the state of California. You must create and bring a name tag and lanyard to each of your volunteer shifts as a form of safety and identification on the elementary school campuses. There's a hanging organizer at the Draper Center where you can keep your volunteer lanyard and name tag, but if you'd like to keep it yourself, go for it. Just make sure you're holding on to it and not losing it. You are welcome to leave your bag at the Draper Center during your shift. Your bags must be kept in a location specified by the coordinators or the Draper staff, which is usually behind the front desk. Here's a more concise list of your onboarding tasks. First is to get a TB test. If you've had one in the last 2 years, just send us the results and you're set. If you haven't, you can get an appointment at SHS, and then just make sure to not book your appointment for a Thursday because you'll need to do the follow-up appointment where they read the results 2 to 3 days after your initial appointment, and 2 to 3 days after a Thursday is the weekend. If you're an international student, you may have to do a blood test instead of a skin prick test. If that's the case for you, just let us know and let SHS know, and you should be all set. You'll also have to do a background check. If you have any concerns about that, please let the coordinators know. You'll also have to join Engage, which is where we log our service hours. You can scan the QR code on this page to join our Engage page, but you should also receive an email invite from us. If you have a valid U.S. driver's license, please strongly consider becoming an authorized driver. It will really help a lot with our transportation and organization of getting volunteers to and from the school. Finally, there will be a sexual assault prevention training in working with minors at a to-be-determined date. That will be required, and if you do not complete that training, you'll have to stop volunteering. But until then, you can volunteer without having done the training.
As a LINC volunteer, it is your responsibility to check the LINC volunteering schedule. You could be scheduled at either San Jose Elementary, Barfield Elementary, Harrison, or you could be scheduled at multiple. So it's your job to keep track of that. Schedules will be pinned in Slack and sent by email. New volunteers are also required to create a name tag, and that will be at the Draper Center at some point.
Please make sure you're dressing appropriately when you go to the elementary schools. That involves not wearing Crocs, strangely, not wearing crop tops, short shorts, or shirts with obscene images or explicit messages. Please don't teach our students their first swear word because of your clothing.
Here's some more logistics about transportation. So volunteers will be taken to and from the school in groups via some college vehicles we have at the Draper Center. If you're an authorized driver and something happens, our vehicles are insured, and so Draper will be responsible for that. Please meet at the Draper Center 15 minutes before your session start time, as we said earlier, and communicate with your volunteer shift and be reachable through WhatsApp. And then if you are an authorized driver, please send an ID number to us coordinators for swipe access to the Draper Center. And then when you walk in and you're going to take your group to the schools, you're going to go behind the front desk and into the second drawer, which is pictured to the right over here. You're going to take the keys and the driving log and fill out the driving log, which just indicates when you left campus and when you came back and how much gas is in the van. And then you're going to put it back in the drawer when you're done with your shift. Please be on time and keep the van clean.
When you're going to school with LINC and driving one of our vans, you can usually park in the surrounding residential streets. One note is that when you're going to Barfield, you can park in the front lot as long as there are spots. And if you're going to San Jose, there are street cleanings 2 Wednesdays a month, so there are certain streets you can't park on. If that's relevant to your group, we'll let you know. Always enter through the front office at your school. Stephanie, who's at San Jose, and others who are at the front desk at other schools are very helpful. Make sure that you always sign in and that you sign out when you leave. Hopefully, we will have a returning volunteer in your session there to help you, and please make sure to take your name tag with you at all times.
So the following slides are a few maps of the school. This one is San Jose. You're going to go into the office and through the office to get to your class. This is Barfield Elementary School, and then this one is Harrison. This slide contains a few scenarios, and you can pause here to read through them, but the main takeaway is that you should be communicating with your teacher when it comes to volunteering, and also with us, the coordinators. As a LINC volunteer, you will be talking to children between the grades of kindergarten through 6th, and so here are a few tips on that. In the QR code on the right, it has a link to some scenarios and what you might need to say as a LINC volunteer. But the main points are have unconditional positivity and empathy. These kids are learning new subjects and they're learning for the first time, so it might take them a while. Don't take anything they say personally. Kids like to say random things. They like to point out things about appearances. So they have no filters. Don't take anything personally. Be aware of these kids' body language and how they react. And so you always want to make sure that you are working with them and not just telling them what to do. You should be speaking at their level. I like to get down on, for example, kindergarten or first graders level, bend down and talk to them face to face rather than from above. You shouldn't be baby talking. These students, they're just mini humans. They're just like us. So you don't want to be condescending when you're teaching. These kids have very short attention spans. A lot of them were stuck at home during COVID, and so there was a lot of iPad usage and TV, and so sometimes these kids have a harder time focusing. And so in the QR code, there are more strategies on how to deal with that. And also note that at no point will you be providing any behavioral correction. You are not a disciplinarian. For a lot of LINC volunteers, it may be difficult to teach at a very basic level because you haven't learned that in a long time, and you're not doing either college level math or you're not doing math at all. So here are some tips on how to go about teaching elementary school topics. The QR code has more extensive resources that iSalute put together. Overall, however, you want to try to use consistent language and maintain consistency with the methods that you're using. Kids love to talk about their passions. If they, like pizza or a specific movie, they'll tell you, and so you can use that in your practice problems or whatever activity you're doing with them. Again, let the students know how they're doing, provide encouragement, tell them that they're doing great or they're working hard and that you appreciate that. And these skills are perfected in practice, so even though we have got a bunch of resources for you here, the best way to learn how to teach is by being there as a volunteer.
A few things to remember as a LINC volunteer. It's important to honor your own schedule. Only take on as much time volunteering as you can handle. If there's anything else you can't handle, let us or your teacher know. Remember, it is not your role to discipline or to do tasks around the classroom. Communicate with us if that's happening. If there's anything else you have questions about, please let us know. We're pretty nice, we promise. This semester, we're focusing on building our LINC volunteer community. We think that y'all are a lot of cool people, and we want you to have the chance to get to know each other. We have a game night with some special food coming up on the 19th. And if you have any ideas for future events, you can contact our volunteer engagement coordinators, who are lovely volunteers named Bernice and Vaidehi. Communication is key in LINC. We have 3 main ways that we communicate. The first one is Slack, which you will receive an invite to if you haven't yet already. This will be used for general announcements and reminders. Please keep notifications on and check it regularly. The next one is email. This is where we'll send information about events, volunteering reminders, schedules, and more. Email will be where you'll find forms to fill out your logistical reminders. Please remember to email your teacher if you'll be missing a session. Also know that if we send you an email, it's specifically because that email is directed for you. We don't just send everything out on mass emails. So if you get an email from us, please check it and do any action items in a timely manner. The final one is WhatsApp. This will be used for volunteer groups. You can use this to message the coordinators and your fellow group members if you won't be there for a session or if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Have any questions? Contact us. The best way to contact us is through our Gmail, learningandcollaboration@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram @LincDraper. We have 2 wonderful social media coordinators who keep that page updated with many things relevant to your volunteer experience with LINC. After that, you'll see the phone numbers for the 4 coordinators. Please feel free to reach out to any of us at any point. Then is our supervisor's email, and please note that our office hours are Thursdays from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. During that time, the coordinators will be at the Draper Center working on the program and available to chat with any of our volunteers or potential volunteers, so please come and stop by if you have any questions for us. If you want to chat another time, that works too, just let us know. We're so glad to have you volunteering with LINC this semester.